Hey, Alex, welcome to the podcast, Digital Nomads, the Modern Executives and Entrepreneurs. And welcome to the
Appreciate
second
the invite,
episode.
Christian. Thank you, brother.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for actually the funny thing about this is I was supposed to be to come to your podcast first, and then you would return the
You
favor in the end.
switched it up. You switched it up, but it's all good. We'll get you on pretty soon. Appreciate the
No,
invite onto
no
yours.
worries. Well, it's a pleasure and really excited to be able to have a chat with you and find out a little bit more about everything that you're up to. So that's why I'm really chuffed to have you on the podcast. So traditionally, what we do on the podcast is we break the ice and ask the guest what they're drinking. So I don't know if you read the script
I did,
beforehand.
I did, I did, and in typical Spanish tradition, which is where I am at the moment, I thought I'd go for a good old San Miguel. So I've got a cold beer, San Miguel, and that'll be my icebreaker for tonight.
Okay, cool. So, where are you at the moment?
So right now I'm in Mallorca, in the Balearic Islands, Spanish Balearic Islands, and yeah, I love it. I've spent a good few years here now. I've just got a small apartment that I keep. It's a bolt hole. I can keep my bike here, which is my one big addiction that I must have. The mountains here, the outdoors, the fresh air. I need it. So I've got my bike, I've got all my clothes, and it's just turnkey, right? So I can just hop on a plane and yeah, the idea is to spend maybe 8 months of the year here, and then kind of pick the best bits of the weather to be back in the UK, and other bits and pieces in between. So it works quite well because it's close to the UK as well. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hour flight, so it's convenient.
Okay. So, are you looking at an 8 month in a block, or it's just going back and forth and commuting over a 12-month period where altogether you'd be 8 months, but on and off?
Yeah, I think I'll pick and choose. The summer here is a little too busy. So like July, August time, I might choose to be elsewhere. But as long as I'm here for more, at least 6 months of the year to satisfy my visa, that's one of the requirements to maintain the Nomad visa is that I'm here for at least 6 months. So however that looks.
Okay. All right. So let's do a little bit of a background and go
Sure.
back to, geez, childhood, and the journey that keep it brief, boarding school and all. Just basically, how what your journey was until you became a digital nomad and to what you do professionally speaking.
Well, yeah, I mean, how long have you got? I've had a very kind of unconventional life. Like
Okay.
probably a lot of digital nomads are, kind of went off piste quite early on, and
Mhm.
I don't know, like I definitely wasn't a more a model student. I kind of rebelled against authority from a pretty early age. That saw me leave high school with you know not really much in the UK. Kind of flunked all my exams, and wasn't interested in it. Bunked off a lot. Messed around. I was kind of the class clown, and that kind of naturally saw me end up going down the apprenticeship road. So I kind of skipped
Okay.
college, didn't do the uni thing. Don't really know why. I don't know why I kind of went that way. I don't know why I had no interest in typical standard like education. It just wasn't for me. So I remember very, very clearly, and I don't know, like you have these experiences and these conversations in your life, right, that kind of stick in your mind, and they might potentially have been, kind of pivotal moments. And I remember sitting in front of my careers advisor. I'm not sure, whether you went through that process where you grew up, but in the UK, you finish high school or you get towards the end, right, and then you have this
A-level
careers
year.
day where you sit down with someone and you ask them questions, or they ask you questions about what you want to do with your life. And I just remember sitting in front of this careers advisor and saying, I don't have a damn clue what I want to do, where I want to be. There was a period of time where I wanted to maybe go into the military, because I think even then, at kind of 15, 16, like the idea of travel excited me, and I saw the military as maybe a way to do that. Um, but I remember sitting in front of this careers advisor, and she said to me, as a 16-year-old boy, "Do you like cars?" And I was like, "Sure." What 16-year-old boy doesn't like cars? And off the back of that, she said, "Well, why don't you become a mechanic?" And I was like, "Sure, that sounds good." No interest in it, never thought about it before, but I was being advised by someone who you can be damn sure when they were 16, they weren't telling their careers advisor, "I wanna be a careers advisor," right? That wasn't what they wanted to do,
Exactly.
but I was taking advice from this person. So anyway, that piece of advice saw me, basically end up enrolling in a mechanic apprenticeship, basically about 4.5 years. Realized that halfway through that there was I had zero interest in it, but I stuck it out to get the piece of paper. And
Yeah.
literally the day I qualified, I hopped on a plane and I left the UK, and that was it. For the next 20 years, I was traveling all over the world.
Wow. Awesome.
There's a lot more
Okay. And so,
continuously talk. It'll be like a 45 minutes sentence. So,
no, thanks. So, okay, so you started traveling and then obviously
mm.
doing various work activities until you um what's the journey fast tracked to life beyond broke,
Yeah,
literally.
so I left the UK. I was about 21 at the time. Obviously went and did the Greece thing, Cyprus, bars, working in clubs, girls, drinking, partying. It was, and I did it with my best friend at the time. He was the DJ, I was the barman, and it was one of those times I look back on now and I'm like, damn, that was awesome. It was just not a care in the
Burning at
world,
both
just
ends.
burning it every end, and just having a blast with it. And we did the first year in Greece, had a blast. Then we came back, both attempted to go back to work. He stuck at it. He was like, "Oh, I've got a good job in the city. I'm going to stick here." I packed up and went back to Greece. I met a girl there, ended up doing the next 2 or 3 years traveling with her, doing the whole Southeast Asia backpacking thing. And that's where, when we was in Thailand, that I wanted to try scuba diving. It was kind of
Okay.
on my bucket list, something that I wanted to do, and absolutely fell in love with it, and realized straight away, this is for me. This is what's going to pay my travels and help me to see the world. And that was it for the next 10 years. I traveled and worked as a scuba instructor, and everywhere from Thailand to Honduras, Central America. 7 years in the Cayman Islands. It was
Wow.
yeah, it was an amazing time. I was a boat captain in the Caymans, diving every day. I don't think I put on a t-shirt for probably 5 years. It was just like board shorts, flip flops, and scuba gear, and yeah, making good money, partying with the guests, diving every day in the Caribbean Sea, seeing sharks and rays and turtles, and yeah, it was a really, really good time. But and then I don't know if anybody's who's listening to this, or maybe yourself, if you've worked in the tourist industry, it can
Yeah.
be hard, right? Because it's like Disney smiles every day, and if you wake up in a bad mood, it's like you got to be Disney. And we used to joke like, get the Disney smile on, work the tips.
Hmm.
So I realized, like, I love this life. I love the sun. I love this the sea. I love the sky. I love the travel. I love the sun on my skin. I need it right now. It's an addiction. But I didn't want to do that anymore. So I thought, well, how can I?
Okay.
What's how do I go up from here? And I had a friend who was working on super yachts. I don't know if you've seen like the Below Deck TV series.
Yeah.
Um,
I used to be a chief stew, so yeah.
you was a chief stew?
Yeah, on a
No
63
way.
meter.
No
Yeah.
shit. Small world. Damn. So yeah, I had a mate who was working on yachts and as an engineer, and I said, how do we get into this? And he said, go over to Florida, do a marine engineering diploma, and the best thing you can do is jump on as a third engineer on a big boat. So I literally did that verbatim, and went over to Florida, knocked out nearly a year long engineering diploma. Um, and yeah, off the back of that, I jumped straight on an 80-meter yacht as third
Wow.
engineer. And then that was it. Another decade, traveling all over the place. I was based over in the Bahamas for a big chunk of that. I actually worked for the same family for 7 years. Incredible family, huge organization. We had lots of very important people come on, like, politicians and, very wealthy people. And it was a really cool glimpse into that world. The conversations you hear, and you're paid to basically see but not hear, or be there and
Yeah.
not see and hear, or whatever the saying goes. You're paid for confidence and confidentiality, and it was an incredible experience. So that was the next kind of 10 years of my time away.
Okay. And then after that,
And then during my time on the yachts, I was making good money. All of my outgoings were paid for. I stayed on the boat. Actually, when I was with this family, they even paid for my. We were shore based a lot of the time, because we did summers in like Sardinia and Corsica. When I
yeah.
moved over to the Med, over in the Caribbean, the boss had his own island, so we did boss trips to the island, and the guests would fly in. But the rest of the time, I was shore based, so I was saving a lot of money. So I started investing in property in the UK. There was something that early on I knew, like, I don't know, it's the same thing again. Even though I was on yachts now, I was making good money, I was like amazing life. It's like tick, 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 tick. But there was still something in me that was like, I need I need the freedom. Like, I need more freedom. Because the thing with yachting, and you'll know this, is that you can never truly commit to anything, because if the boss changes his mind and decides he
Besides,
wants to go on a
yeah.
trip, so you end up canceling. You can't, you're meant to go to your best friend's wedding one week, and 2 days before you're like, oh, can't come. Missing
Can't
family
come. Yeah.
birthdays, missing Christmases. And I was like, I don't like not being in control of my time.
Hmm.
So I started investing in property. I was saving money, so I could, and I was making a good income, so I had credit with the banks, and yeah, I just started picking up like buy to lets in the northwest of the UK in Manchester, which I could see was growing fast.
Yeah.
The center of Manchester was just like growing at such a
Booming.
fast rate. Yeah. So I just started buying up houses like in Greater Manchester, rather than buying in the center where the ship had kind of already sailed, and all I could get was like a small apartment for, like 125,000. So I started buying just a little bit further out houses with gardens and driveways, still only a 10-minute tram ride into the center. Um,
Mm.
and that was kind of
Sweet
my
spot.
first. Yeah, it was a sweet spot. Great family rentals, fantastic yields, low mortgage interest rates then. Obviously, they've gone up
Hmm.
now, but I think that was all around the 2% mark. So the yields were
Yeah.
great, and the capital appreciation was strong as well. So that was my first dip into property.
Awesome. Okay. So continuing uh, in the break the ice, any hobbies or leisure activity that allow you to find yourself or recalibrate.
Yeah, like I kind of alluded to earlier, cycling. Um, For me, and for anyone who doesn't cycle, I don't think you can even come close to grasping, like, when you see the guys on the TV, what they do is absolutely mind blowing. Once you're a few years into cycling, and you get to what you would consider to be a pretty decent level for a weekend warrior. I consider myself to be, I can hold my own, but man, when I see what they do. But for me, when I'm on a long climb like they have here in Mallorca, there's lots of like sweeping alpine climbs, and you know, when you're fighting and you're completely laser focused on just getting to the top, So all of your like stresses and worries and thoughts about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, it all just kind of melts away. It's just like,
Just go
God,
away.
just got to get to the top of this climb. So for me, and then when you're coming down the other side, wind in your hair and just like it depends a lot for me on the on where I am. Like I've cycled a bit in the UK, but it doesn't give me the same buzz as it does here. So it's very kind of
Rain,
you know
rain and wind in your face is never the same effect.
yeah, rain, wind, massive potholes, and then white van drivers flipping you off on the way past. It's a bit different. Doesn't really happen here. Here, there's so many cyclists in Mallorca, and it generates such a huge amount of income for the island. They're so dependent on the tourism that comes off the back of it that the roads are like
Yeah.
you know so perfect smooth tarmac. Even in the mountains where there's very little traffic, they're perfect roads. Drives are super respectful. They give way to you. So yeah, it's the epicenter really of cycling um, over in the Med.
All right. Last one is family life. What does it look
Mm.
like for you as a digital nomad? Is there one? How does it work? Who's traveling, who's not?
Yeah, so again, maybe it's where I'm a little unconventional. I don't have kids. I'm not married. Well, not really through choice. Kids, I've always kind of been on the fence about. Like sometimes I'm like, it'd be kind of nice, and then I see a family in a restaurant with a screaming baby, and I'm like, oh, nah, I'll buy another bike instead. Um, so I've always been on the fence about the kids, the relationships, and why I'm not married. I've just had I've had lots of middle like length relationships. I keep getting to like the 3, 4, 5 year mark, and then
Okay.
yeah, something will happen. I think it's got a lot to do with like being in different countries, visa issues. Maybe I want to leave the island, they want to stay. As soon as you go off this like perfect script that the majority of people
Mm,
have, which is you're born in a place, you go to school there, you get a job there, you meet someone, you move in together, you both go to your jobs, you both come home to the same place. Once you come off that road and you bring in all these other elements of travel and desire and all these wants to do different things, it just gets more complicated. I could sit here and tell you in detail about every one of my relationships, and I can pinpoint exactly why. Like just one, for example, when I was in Cayman, I was with Courtney for about 2.5 years. It was great, we got on great, everything was great. She went back to the States, to Washington, Seattle, and because her job ended on the island. She was the spa manager, and I remember we made solid plans that I was going to follow her and go live in the States and kind of build this life over there and get married and get a 9 to 5 and all the rest of it. And she went, and I remember very vividly. I was sitting on the dock, loving life, like black, like so tanned, blonde streaks in my hair, money in my pocket. I had my 46-foot dive boat there that I was in charge of. Like, an endless queue of guests that were requesting me to be their boat captain. And I just remember sitting on the dock on the phone to my mum saying, Mum, like, I'm so happy here. And I don't know what to
yeah.
do. And anyway, and obviously I didn't end up following her. And it's just an example of this split, which there's a lot more chance of that happening when you live a bit more of a transient lifestyle, I guess. But we're still
Yes.
good mates.
Okay.
We're still super close. So she hated me for a few
Yeah.
years and then we made up.
Yeah. It's always a tricky one, I guess. The family life, etc., because you see this sort of thing. So I guess I'd qualify myself as hyper lucky. I met a wonderful person. She's Dutch. We met in France, got married, and sort of COVID happened, and then we love traveling. And then COVID, on the back of COVID, we decided to pack our bags and go. And she followed and loved it. And I mean, she experienced Africa for the first time. That was a
Wow.
culture shock. And then, and at the same time, I'm lucky because we work together. I mean, everything that I can't function without her. and vice versa. We complete each other. But as digital nomads, we faced a hell of a lot of problems with finding places to stay as couples, because sometimes, Airbnb, you're priced out when it's summer and so on and so forth. So funny, I think we managed to find our little slow living. So pretty much like you, it's 8 months here, in Spain, and then it's 4 months in Africa, because I organize safaris. So
Wow,
we
really?
we found, I mean,
That's
yeah. So we've done. So last year we did 1 month per, I guess, per location. So we did Portugal 1 month, we did Netherlands 1 month, then Leeds 1 month, followed
mm,
by Grimbergen, then Brussels, then a little bit of Netherlands, and then a little bit of Montpellier because my family is there for Christmas, and then 2 months in Portugal. And during all that time, we said, like, it's going to be Spain. It's going to be Spain. It's going to be Spain. And so we've been back in Spain since beginning of this month. And we said, like, okay, this is home. This is where we're happy. We can commute to London. We can commute everywhere we need to. We're not far away from our families, so that's the advantage. We can literally nip across to Montpellier if I need. And I've got my my father who's just been in hospital and had an operation. So if I needed to, I can jump on a plane and go
yep.
over. Same for Will's parents who are getting a little bit older. If there needs to be, you can quickly nip across. And I guess Africa also as a choice helps because we're in the same time zone, and so on and so forth. And there's relatively easy direct flights if really needed to get there, or semi-direct. I mean, go via Johannesburg and Johannesburg to anywhere in the world. So I guess,
It,
but
it,
yeah,
it it was a huge draw in it, it was a huge thing in my decision as well. The location of Spain for family, because when I was in the Caribbean for so long, and not seeing my family really much at all as an adult, because I was gone for so
Mhm.
long. I was just kind of coming back for Christmases and here and there where I could. But as your parents start to get older, I was like, I need to start spending more time. And it was another driver as to why I wanted to get out the job and be a little bit more in control, of my schedule and my choices and my time,
100%.
so I could be close to family. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like, for us, so I know a lot of people, think of digital nomads as going at, like, completely the other side of the planet, going
Mm,
to Thailand from the US and cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But not necessarily. You don't have to, and the beauty of it is, like, we can literally go away for a weekend. I mean, we can go home for a weekend.
mm.
It's just so easy and convenient. Um, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and Spain's just amazing for that. But what you said about the safari, that's so when I was in Cayman for all that time, one of my long-term girlfriends, another one, Sharon, who I'm still amazing friends with, she was from East London in South Africa.
Oh, yeah, in South Africa.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I said to her so many times, like, Shaz, can we please go and see, like, your country? I want to do the safaris. I want to do all of that. But I don't know. Like, unfortunately, she had a bit of a negative. Like, she had a really tough upbringing. She worked like 3 jobs, quite poor, like, upbringing. So she had a bit of a negative, like, connection to the place, and she didn't. So we never got there, which is a shame. So I kind of miss that part of the world, but I definitely, it's massively on my bucket list. Like, it
Yeah,
just looks
well,
incredible.
where between, because it gets so hot here in Spain, and the
Mm,
safari season is from April, opens in April and runs all the way until mid to end of October. Um, so high season is also, I guess, June to mid October, but it's winter that side. So beautiful weather, but it's dry. It's a dry winter, which is why there's no snow.
mm,
So we are going to escape the heat of Spain in the summer and going to be in the dry, um, bearable heat of winter in southern Africa, where it's just absolutely magical. So we're there from mid June until end of September. We might be pushing a bit later this year because we've got a project. We've got someone who wants to build the most luxurious tented safari camp in Southern Africa, and he asked if I could help him set it up. But we're just waiting for the environmental impact assessment, which is taking a little bit more time. So the intention was doing a soft opening in September, October, if we get that on time. If not, it'll be for next year. But anyway, we still need to do the get the work done. But it's an absolutely amazing place. It's on the Zambezi Valley, Mana Pools in Zimbabwe, and it's going to be magical. But otherwise,
Incredible.
anywhere, I think for me the best is the bandwidth from Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. I mean, you want beach and beautiful coastline without anybody for miles. Go to Mozambique. It's the Indian Ocean. I mean, a lot of people see pictures of Mauritius and the beaches there and La Réunion. Well, Mozambique is the best kept secret. So anyway, you have a place to come to if you want to jump on a flight and escape the heat.
Appreciate that.
So
Appreciate that. I'd love to see I'd
that's
love to see like the giraffes and the zebras and and the lions. It would be mind blowing.
you're going to be
Hippos.
experiencing lions coming right across, the elephants coming through the campsite. Yeah, it's not gonna be
So
like, woo,
how
it's
does it
going to
work in
be.
that? How does it work in that case with like safety? How do you keep people safe if there's lions and
We've got professional guides. Yeah, we've got hunter guides, professionals. You're always in safety. We're conscious of everything, so don't worry. You'll be well looked after. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
mate?
Deep
You better
dive.
be ready. Better be ready. I'm going to be turning up at your door.
Good, good, good. All right. So, I mean, I guess this is moving into deep dive, the digital nomad journey. So I know we've mentioned a lot of places, but I'm looking at, having a community of, entrepreneurs who are digital nomads, because that's the way we're going. And it's always a question of where to go, where to stay, where to eat and play, and where to work. So those are the most important, because that's what everyone wants to know. So favorite places to visit, let's go for you.
Oh, I'm kind of finding that I don't know whether this is going to answer your question or not, but I feel like I've done so much traveling. Like while I was young,
Mhm,
I did like the hardcore backpacking, the hostels, the boats, waking up here, there, everywhere, all different places. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of places that I haven't seen that I want to
mhm,
see. But I feel like now I'm in my early 40s now. I'm not so much about like the traveling part. I'm more about
mhm.
just being based, like
Experience.
having some roots, having like being grounded a little bit more, having a place to unpack. But I want those places to be places that I really truly want to be.
Mhm.
I like, as I'm getting older as well, I'm feeling like the importance of community is very important. I like to have people around me who I know and trust. I like to have people that I know I can call and that I can build relationships with, and I like to know my surroundings. And I think it's just part of getting older. So as far as places to
Agreed.
go and travel to, I just love like just being in Mallorca, riding my bike, doing my work, going home, being with family. I feel like I've really kind of purged that part of me that just was desperate, like constantly running and trying to like I've got to see everywhere and I've got to wake up in new places and see all these places. And don't get me wrong, I'll continue
Tiring.
to travel, you know. So the places for me, an ideal life, I guess when you ask like favorite places would be, if I won the lottery tomorrow, right, and money was absolutely no issue, I'd spend a big chunk of time here, and then the best weather months for cycling, really. And then I'd
Mhm.
spend a lot of time out in the Western US, kind of
West Coast.
Colorado. Yeah,
Okay.
Colorado, I absolutely love, the whole, I love Washington, I love Oregon, parts of California I haven't seen, but I'd imagine I'd love that too. And the
Yes.
reason I know that is because in 2000, and I think it was 2012, God, it's a long time ago now, but me and my really good friend of mine, we basically packed in our jobs and we flew into Florida, and we both bought big 650 dirt bikes, and we spent a
Mm.
few weeks like tricking them out at my friend's place in Florida, and then we took those and we rode the whole way across the US to the Pacific coast from Florida, sorry, from Tennessee, all on dirt roads. So we didn't do any main roads, any
All on dirt
highway,
roads.
all
Oh my
forests,
God,
back
that must
roads,
be like,
mining roads. Oh yeah, camping gear on the back. Self sufficient, and we just went right through, and it was absolutely incredible. And when we got to like Colorado and into the Rockies and stuff, just like, well, I mean, we saw more of America than 99% of American people. No Walmarts, no McDonald's, just pure and utter wilderness, like completely off the beaten path,
wow.
and riding through like the stuff you see in films, like the trailer parks in the South, the toothless, like cross-eyed banjo playing inbreds. We saw all of that. We saw like shanty
Mm.
towns like built in the absolute middle of nowhere, in like in the forests, like
Yeah.
out of public sight.
Wow.
We went through some little tiny towns with like populations like 60, 70 people with like hand cranked gas pumps and stuff. It
Oh
was
my
just
God, that's
unbelievable.
so like experiential.
Absolutely. And we
That's an
raised,
experience.
yeah, and we did it for charity as well. So we logged it all. We kind of was putting everything up on Facebook and stuff, and we set up a charity for a charity called Cure Search Children's Cancer, and we raised like
Mhm.
$4,000 through our public
Awesome.
page. So it was worth it too in that way. So that'd be my ideal life. I'd have a ranch out in
Okay.
Colorado. I'd have a sea view villa here, and then I'd probably have a nice sprawling country manor in the Cotswolds in the UK or something, and I'd bounce between the three.
Okay. So, I mean, that's an experience. So, obviously, you weren't rushed for time and things like that. So how long did it take you to do that road trip?
Yeah, we took our time. We spent a few days in places that really like, you know, appealed. So the whole thing was 5,000 miles, and we did it in just over 7 weeks.
Nice. So that's really taking your time. Really, but I
Mm.
guess that's slow living. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it
Okay.
was
Would you do
technical
it
though.
again somewhere else?
Oh, 100%. We talk, we're still super close. He's still working on yachts. And we've been saying ever since then, like next year we're gonna, do Africa, or we're gonna, do South America. And, like most of us, there's always something, right? Next year, need to make some more money, or, need to do these courses, or need to do this, this job or whatever. So hasn't happened. It will, when we're both in the right place, we'll do another trip. But it lit something inside of us. There's something, we had the mics in the helmets so we could communicate.
Yeah.
And
Ah, perfect.
when you're in, we went through some really hard times, like super technical riding, hardcore weather. It was one of the hottest summers on record when we started going through the deep south. I mean, the humidity was just off the charts, and very testing, like, riding in that terrain for thousands of miles, right? And it brings out emotion, it brings out a connection, it brings out, we there was times when we're both like crying in our helmets, and where but we'd have bike mechanicals and we're stranded, and we've got to like find our way out of these situations. And that really brought us so close. And I'll always remember, like, when we came over the crest, and we saw the Pacific Ocean, and it was just like, you know r- raw
Falling.
emotion. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you create a bond that you just
Awesome.
can't. It's very, very special. So I recommend it to anyone.
Okay. Perfect. Um, so I guess the next question, I mean, we've already answered, is nomad lifestyle, the cadence, travel frequency, and duration. And I think this is something that is something, the similar, Facebook groups, everyone wants to become a digital nomad, and you've got all these stories. And my recommendation is traveling is tiring, and if
Yeah.
you really want to enjoy anything, slow the F down. Like, slow down. You need, we're human, we're humans, we're social beings. We need to connect. And as you said, and this is what where, we 100% resonate with what you're doing as well, is like, I think if you're going to stay in any given place or go somewhere, minimum at the is 1 month. If you can do 3 months, then and I recommend to people, is just like, why don't you pick four? You can pick literally four different places and spend 3 months in each place, and every time you come back on a cycle, on every year you come back to the same place at the same time, because you're familiar with it. You see the same, you start creating those bonds and those connections, etc., and it's great. And if it doesn't, after a while, you can drop two, and then to have two main bases, and from which you can commute and travel. But I think in an ideal scenario, a good cadence for a digital nomad is every 3 months, if that. And if you can do less, and really connect with where you're going, I think that's where the real special moments happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, like I said earlier, I think it's massively age dependent. I think, when you're younger, like I did, and I see loads of people here that bounce around and come and go, and they're all over the place. And I would highly recommend that to anyone who's in that stage of their life. And there's also people who, even as they get older, they want to continue living like that. I just think, for me personally, for me now, it's more about, yeah, having some roots, having community, and and again, I think it's part of getting older, or maybe it's just me, but I like my routine, right? I like to wake up, I like to stretch, I like to do my workout, I like to bike, I like to take my walks, so I think it's just a different phase of life. Now
Listen,
I couldn't wander around like with a, obviously not a Lonely Planet guide now, things have changed, but back in the day, you'd be wandering around like trying to find a hostel, and can I afford air conditioning, or should I go for the fan only room? I'm like, nah, I couldn't do I couldn't do that anymore. Couldn't do that anymore. No.
need,
Yeah.
I need my luxuries. Don't ask me to do any
Yeah.
cold showers anymore. I've done that, got that. No, I
Yeah.
need my, I need
Warm
my
showers,
luxuries.
good coffee, and my clothes
Yeah.
hanging up, and I need enough space in between each t-shirt so they're not like all creased. And it's just what it is. It's just getting older. I can't help it. I can't pretend to be a cool, hippie dude
No,
anymore. It's
no, no,
my
no,
back
don't,
hurts
don't,
if I
don't,
sleep in the
no
wrong
need.
bed.
No need to. I mean, like, for us, it's like, I mean, we really really get picky, and I mean, on top of that, I've got a wife, so I the last thing I want to do is be sharing a hostel with, I don't know, all sorts of hungry dudes who just like. So no, it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, even sharing a villa, or with, we just said, like, we love each other's company. If we want to go see other people, we can go out and to the cafe, etc. But like, no, we need our own space. We have our, don't ask my wife to share a bathroom with anybody.
Mm.
I'm barely allowed to use the bathroom myself, so like, no
Yeah.
sharing of bathrooms. So
I just had a friend here, staying with me for 4 nights, came over from the UK. And day one, I'm like, man, it's so good to have you here, and I want to show you around and everything. But like day four, I'm like, you know, you're gonna pick the towel up and you're gonna hang that up over there, or you're just gonna leave it on the
mm,
floor. It's like,
my
you
wife
just get your
is pissing
ways.
herself right now.
Yeah,
My
you have
wife
your
is like, it's
ways.
like, yeah,
Every
indeed.
time I go into the bathroom, I'm like rinsing out the sink, and dad, left his damn toothpaste in the sink again. It's like living with an animal, you know. But,
And on top of that, I mean, we've got something in common as real estate. So we used to do a lot of villa management, and turnovers at, like, on Saturdays. People coming in, check-ins, etc. And like, you'd be surprised. And we're in premium luxury. Oh my God, it doesn't stop people from being dirty. So
It can almost be
it's
worse,
just
eh? Can almost work the other
we
way.
won't mention names or places, but we've seen some hectic stuff, and at the same time we think like, if we were a, this is also, one of the things that I love is the life beyond broke, and your podcast is, geez, the info and experience and everything that you share on your podcast, about managing, apartments, and all the little details, we can relate to it. But there's not enough people. Don't I don't know if people really care enough, or it doesn't compute. There's, I guess, savoir vivre, to have when you go and rent a place, or or even when you own a place and clean it and prepare it for guests to arrive. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just, so life. It's
Yeah.
time to move into y- work, as in, what do you do, and explain a little bit about life beyond broke, because I think it's amazing. And if anyone's out there listening, guys, go and check out, Alex's podcast. I think you have it every Monday, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Every Monday we release an episode. It's pretty new. We've only been running since Jan, but we've got some really good feedback, and we've got some interest from some some companies out there that want to potentially get involved with some sponsorship. So it's doing well. Numbers are good, and basically, yeah. So what I do now, obviously, started to dip my feet in the property world through investing in buy to lets, and you know everybody knows with buy to lets they're incredibly passive. They rent all day long, really no major issues other than when the agent calls me and says, there's whatever, some light bulbs, or, gas safety checks or whatever. So very, very passive. But like anything in this world, you get out of them the amount of work that you put in. And, even though the yields are good, you need a hell of a lot of buy to lets to be able to be really financially secure, and to be able to live off that income. So, I started to kind of look more at serviced accommodation, or Airbnb, as a way to kind of increase that income. And I started working with my now business partner, who is an incredible guy, one of the most big hearted, caring, ethical, genuine people I've ever met. Um, Sometimes a little bit too much. Sometimes I got to be like, "Come on, man! Like, toughen up." Give him walks all over. But there is a chance of that, just because he's so nice and he sees the best in everybody. So
How
yeah,
did you
I
meet
met.
him?
We met on a property course, back in maybe 2017. It was a HMO
Okay.
property course at the time. So we were both didn't know each other then, but we ended up on this course, and we were looking at getting into HMOs again as a way to increase income, from real estate, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, HMOs is houses in multiple occupations. So it's where you take basically a house, you break it up into separate apartments, sometimes with en suites and shared living areas, communal lounges, communal kitchen. And you rent each of those rooms out on assured short hold tenancy contracts, like you would with a single family home, but you significantly increase the income. So we kind of hit it off during that course, and he's like numbers, spreadsheets, analysis. He's an ex electrical engineer, incredibly smart guy who spent a long time in the oil and gas industry. Um, but at the time, and I see more in him than he sees in himself, which is, I think, the same for most of us. But he came to me and he said, "Look, I'm really confident with numbers and deal stacking analysis and stuff." But he said, I'm not confident with building a brand, or being the face of the business, or being on social media. So he said, what do you think about maybe partnering up? I think we could do pretty well. So we tried doing that in the HMO space, but we kind of struggled to find deals that stacked, because in Surrey, where he's based,
Mhm.
prices are high, and it was kind of hard to make it work. So that's when we kind of found our feet in serviced accommodation, and we started to kind of dip our feet into that. And now we've got 16 properties that we rent and manage, that we run as serviced accommodation for corporates and contractors. So it's not the biggest portfolio, but we wanted a portfolio that was really well systemized, that was consistently, profitable, that we knew would just work and was sustainable, and we could automate it. So that's what we've done, and it's that business has got us both out of our day jobs, and he's now out of his corporate job. He's at home with his family. I'm obviously, doing this, spending time over here and running things from pretty much anywhere in the world, through technology, channel managers, and different systems. And we do have a few people that work for us. And now we're kind of leaning more into the coaching side of things, because I believe that, for people who are in day jobs that are not serving them, maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck. Life's just kind of gone from what should be exciting, to this kind of monotonous sludge, or just this existence, just really desperately trying to scrape through to the weekend, and then the weekend comes, and all it is just basically resetting for Monday, right? You do the family shop, you wash the car, you cut the grass, clean the house, and it's basically just resetting for the next onslaught of mediocrities. And I really genuinely believe that, with very little startup capital and a drive to succeed, with serviced accommodation, doing it the right way. There's a lot of people that are jumping on the bandwagon now and trying to teach this stuff, but they're
Yeah.
kind of leading people off a cliff, and they're getting people to
Mm.
basically just go out and source properties without a deep understanding of the business, and without the marketing fundamentals to make sure that they're getting booked, because the space is getting busy. There's a lot of people that are not filling their properties, and they're getting into trouble, and then the support kind of falls away. So we're all about slow it down. Let's have a really good understanding of the numbers, a really good understanding of the business, and let's do it at the right pace. And then let's build in systems and get you to a point where you can get out your day job and kind of make it as passive as it can be. So that's kind of where we're focused now, is more on the coaching side of things.
Okay. And your portfolio is essentially in the UK, or have you got something in, in Spain or in Mallorca? Have you spread that out?
Yeah, so the portfolio is all in the UK. I'd like to take on some property here
Okay.
in Mallorca, but they actually made it illegal a couple of years ago here, because it was getting so busy with expats buying up a lot of the rental stock. So it made it difficult for locals to afford the rents. So the hotels and the government basically came together and said, "Look, let's put a cap on this." So now it's a 30-day minimum stay with no license. If you want to rent for less than that, you need a license, which is about 30,000 euros. So yeah, it's all in the UK.
Wow.
It's all close to where my business partner's based. So it works pretty well.
Okay. Would you be open to having a portfolio outside of the UK should the opportunity arise?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, to be honest, with our mentees that we're working with, we're pretty strict on we've got this rule that we say you should only really take on properties that are within like 30 minutes or an hour from where you live.
Okay,
Especially when you're
that makes sense.
starting. Yeah,
Hmm.
especially when you're starting, and it's something else that a lot of these people sell when they're selling a dream. When you see the social media adverts, and people are like, "Here's me in Dubai, and I've got 5 places in Indonesia and 6 places in Cape Town," and it's like, well, you don't, first of all,
Mm.
and secondly, I just don't understand how because it's all about standards and reviews. And if you don't have them properties within 30 minutes or an hour from where you're based, and
Mhm.
the guests can't get into the property, they've lost the keys, or there's a leak, and it's 3 in the morning, if that property's you know in another country, how are you going to deal with that? Like, it's nice to say, well, we'll just set up teams and all the rest of it. And maybe you can, but I just don't know how you can maintain a standard, when they're scattered all over the place. So
It's
I'd
It's
have to
very
have a
difficult.
pretty yeah, I'd have to be pretty comfortable with my local knowledge to do it anywhere, I think, quite honestly. So it's
I,
a very nice idea, very romantic idea. You know, have these places dotted all over the world and just block out dates and block out the calendar and but I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, personally.
okay. I mean, I think you have a great point there because like from the problem is not only the property but also building that team that's going to help you maintain and
You're only as good
service
as your team.
and absolutely and
And no one's
foraying
gonna
on
care
the
about
on
your
the
business as much as you. It's just not possible.
100%, 100%. Okay, and so now we move on to a couple of fun facts. Time spent on screens, non-work.
Oh, non-work. I don't really think that much. Like I spend a shit ton of time on my phone and on my computer. But to be quite honest, I'm pretty much always either uploading content because that's pretty much what I bring to the business, building the brand, or looking at other people's content and getting ideas. It's very rare that I'm just zoning out, you know, scrolling through other than stuff that my family send me. I'm a huge dog lover. So we're always sharing videos of like, you know, the cool dog stuff. But outside of that, I don't think that much. Only beneficial stuff, really.
Okay. All right. Next question. Bucket list item to tick off in 2024. Can be anything. It doesn't have to be travel. Something that you really want to tick off your bucket list in 2024.
I'd love to meet my soulmate if that's not too sloppy. I'd love to meet, you know, just that woman who's out there somewhere. I believe that everybody's kind of, you know, got their one, and I think I've come close like a bunch of times, like I alluded to earlier. But you know, I think life's better shared. I have a huge amount
100%.
of respect for people who say, you know, they're 100% comfortable by themselves and they don't need anyone, and I think that's cool as well.
Mm,
But when I'm standing on the top of a mountain looking out across a view, you know, I want to share that with someone. So yeah, if I could choose an item to tick off, it would be yeah, to meet that Mrs. Right. I think.
okay.
Any
That's a
ladies out
very
there
nice
listening?
exactly.
Give me a
That's
call.
a very nice and actually that's a beautiful item to have on the bucket list for for having that found that person myself. I'm really grateful for it. And yeah, everything's better when you share it, including fights.
Yeah.
You can't fight against yourself, you know. You got to-
Yeah. Yeah, that's
All
true.
right.
That's true. I had a few too many fights in my last relationship though, so I'm good for fighting for a little while.
Okay. Right. Beach or mountain cabin? Beach house holiday or mountain cabin getaway?
Is it
Mm,
and it can only be one?
it can only be one.
Ah, damn. Beach house, holiday, or mountain. I think I'm gonna say beach house just because I'm a lot more comfortable on the beach than I am in the mountains. But I'm also very envious of these guys who are like, you know, can just pack up like a little bag and disappear into the valleys for weeks and be completely self-sufficient. Like I'd love to do that as well, but I know I wouldn't last 2 days. But yeah, so I go for the beach.
Beach. Luxury mountain, huh? Don't worry. There's the comforts and everything, you know,
Uh,
good equipment. But yeah,
luxury
see,
mountain. Okay.
my wife needs the sea. I
Yeah.
love mountains and rivers. So I love walking, going up into the mountains, picking a river, and walking in the stream down river
Oh,
and just like miles and miles if I can.
amazing.
I love that sort of thing. But so the
Um,
choice of where we live is always determined by proximity of the beach slash water,
yeah.
and mountains need to be, I guess, within an hour and a half drive. So that's
That's
how
that's
we
that's the
choose our
that's the
venues.
one the one drawback with Colorado is it's so far from the ocean, but you also have incredible lakes, so and some of the lakes, it's hard to imagine if you haven't seen them, but some of the lakes in the US are so vast, and obviously in Africa as well, so
It's like a
vast that
sea.
it's like the ocean. Yeah. You can't,
Mm.
like hundreds of miles. It's nuts. So yeah, that'll work too.
Okay. Drinking, hot drink, coffee or tea, and what kind?
Definitely coffee over tea, and just normal coffee. I'm not a big coffee snob, but I must have soy milk. I'm one of those, got to have soy milk or oat milk. So yeah, pretty standard coffee. I'll have a tea maybe in the evening, but definitely coffee in the morning and through the afternoons.
Okay. Well, soy milk. Can you cut the podcast? Cut it. He said soy milk.
I don't get cow's milk. Like, we don't need any more hormones. We drank that when we were babies to make us strong. Now we're
Okay.
adults. Why are we
Says the
drinking?
person who can't drink milk. So it's just adding anything to coffee. For me, it's coffee, black coffee. Don't add
Oh,
anything
black
to it.
coffee. Black coffee. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit too strong for me.
Yeah. You need good coffee. Um, Come and experience coffee from Zimbabwe, from the Vumba Mountains.
Oh
That's
yeah.
gonna and tea as well. You're gonna love it.
I did have great tea in
But
Bali, in Indonesia. I remember the tea was really good.
yeah. Okay. So this one is a bit of a nerdy one. Comedy club night out or TED Talk marathon for an evening out. What's your pick to unwind?
A club night out or a TED talk. Is that what you
Comedy club.
said?
Comedy club night.
Comedy club or a TED talk? Um,
Yeah.
I I'd go for the TED talk. I think. Yeah, I think I'd rather sit in a room and listen to something educational and inspiring than yeah. There's very few people that I would roar up laughing at. I could probably name them on one hand. So my fears would be if I went to see like an amateur comedy club thing, yeah, I'd probably be disappointed. So I'll take the TED talk, and it's something which I've got a big dream, big aspiration to be like on stages. If I can get over and I think I'm good at it, but I also have a lot of nerves around it, which I think is normal. But the idea of being on a stage and inspiring people and lifting them
Yeah.
up and making them believe that they can do better and they can achieve more is and making a difference, making a change would be amazing. So I think TED Talks are for normal people to walk out on a stage in front of that many people is incredible. You know, very
100%.
inspiring.
I can relate to wanting to help and inspire people. That definitely. So the last one is sports. Where would you thrive? Single competitor, doubles sports, relay team, or team sport?
Um, I think a double sport. Yeah, I don't think I'm a natural leader, if I'm honest. But if you tell me what to do, I'll do it really well. So I think a double team sport I'd be pretty good at. Although I was also a pro cricketer when I was a kid, so teams also work.
Doubles, small unit, and effective.
Yeah, yeah, get in there and get it done.
Perfect. All right. So we've come to an end, and geez, in terms of timing, we're nearly spot on. This is a wrap. I don't know if there are any people who are live who have got any questions. We don't have a hard stop, but if anybody's got any questions for Alex about digital nomad life, his experiences, or life beyond broke, and his coaching, um, please do drop a comment, and then hopefully he will respond. And
Absolutely.
otherwise, in the meantime, if you want to check out his podcast, Facebook, Life Beyond Broke. You can find him there. Is there anywhere else, Alex, we can find you?
Yeah, we're on Instagram as well. Similar handle, Life Beyond Broke. The podcast is called the Airbnb Nomads, the Airbnb Nomad podcast. And you could also email me at info@lifebeyondbroke.co.uk. And we're very, very responsive. So if you've got any questions, or if you've got any desire to genuinely, get out the rat race and build a business that can be systemized and automated and generate large amounts of cash flow for very little kind of money for time exchange, which I think is really the issue with most jobs, right? That physical act of having to place your body in that place of work in order to get paid and have a boss that puts a value on your time. If you want to get out of that and travel more and have more freedom and more security, then get in touch. We can definitely help you and do it the right way, without all the false promises and, rainbows and butterflies, just real life, and we'll get it done.
Fantastic. Okay, so no questions, and that is, I guess, a wrap. Alex, it's
Cool.
been an absolute pleasure having you. Definitely want to stay in touch, and we'll definitely be catching up over the next few days.
Absolutely.
Because yeah,
We'll have you
we're
on.
gonna,
We'll have you on the podcast.
yeah, or even without. But yeah, now I've had you on my podcast. That's that. See ya. I'm out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be
No.
kicking your door down in the safaris too. So you won't get rid of me now. I've had
Yeah,
that
and
invite.
oh yeah, and I think that also needs some planning. That would be actually great fun. To have you in Southern Africa
Sure.
for a couple of weeks. Slow living, and trust me, there's no electricity, no water, slow living. I'm joking, there is, but
Sounds
it'll
amazing.
be good.
Uh, I'd
It'll
love
be
to
good.
climb Table Mountain.
Okay, okay, we'll go
Yeah,
down. We'll
it's on
go
the
down.
bucket list.
Table Mountain's cool. I really like Lion's Head better. But then the
Okay.
Drakensberg mountains are wow. But I mean, I guess you're gonna have to come back every year because there's so much to see, so much to do. Like really, and people don't realize that it's not just about the safaris and the animals. There's also just fantastic scenery. I mean, Will was like always just saying, "I can't believe that I'm seeing this." It's just amazing place to be, and the people. I think also that also helps a lot is the people are just like so nice. So yeah,
You're a good salesman.
fantastic.
Sign me up. Sign me up. I'm there.
Fantastic. Alex, an absolute pleasure. Let's stay in touch. And thank you very much for having been a wonderful guest on our podcast. And we'll catch up
Thank
soon.
you, sir. I enjoyed that. We'll see you
All
next
right.
time.
See you. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers, mate.